Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. So, all the conventions, the fall conventions, you have Gen Con, Origins, Essen, all just kind of in a row coming up, especially with this sort of pseudo, well, it's not really pseudo, but people are treating it as this pseudo pandemic. Not as many people are going. And that's true from the attendees, but also the attenders in terms of the companies, the fans, the crowd, just everything in between. And so the question always is, though, along with these conventions, buy the games, buy the new releases, get the Essen mules to bring you back games from Germany because you can't go over there yourself. And, you know, I'll be honest, there's a couple games that I'm looking at that I'm going, okay, you know, Siege of Rundar, for example. I'd love a copy of that, but they're not shipping. So the trick is, though, and I've said this in years past, and I've seen this ad nauseum, but especially with Essen, but even now with those other two big conventions. You see a whole bunch of releases that are timed for these conventions, right? And inevitably, you see this on social media, but you also see it all over Board Game Geek, like these lists that people are like, here are the 37 games that I'm going to pick up at Essen. Here are the 42 and a half games that I'm going to come home with from Gen Con. And now, not only do people spend above the retail price for those games, and I'm not talking about just the online, discount, big board game stores, but I'm talking about just, run of the mill, anything, and you're paying more of the MSRP as well to, I guess you're paying a premium. People have a problem with this on Kickstarter, but you have a premium being paid to get it a month earlier. And then what I see happening, and this is where I was going with this, is that inevitably those same lists end up in a very similar list in a different heading when they're selling half those games because they knew next to nothing about them. They didn't know whether or not they were going to be any good or stand the test of time or how they compared to even things that have been out in the last 6 months, let alone the last 6 years. And so they're then trying to sell them. Rinse and repeat year after year. So this is going to be a video that does the opposite. Here are 10 games that I would buy, maybe a couple pre-orders, very few and far exceptions there, but the 10 games that I would get at this point instead of going after the hot releases at said conventions. Games that are going to be better for you than the unknowns that are going to come out of the conventions. The FOMO of looking over your shoulder at what the Joneses are doing, the grass is always greener side of things from my FOMO video earlier this year. So let's talk about that. Let me tell you about them. Let me tell you why. And let me give you some more reasonable options. Let's do this. Now, number one, let's start with, and now these are in no particular order, and if you've made it this far, please subscribe as I'm trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the year. But let's talk about number one, and this is Meadow from Rebel Studio. That is, now, this is one of those small disclaimers. It's pretty unavailable, at least stateside right now. You're going to pay a pretty scalper's price if you look over here at the geek market. Now, you can get a copy for $55 plus shipping, which isn't bad because I think it's retailing at about $50, $45 anyway, so you're not paying too bad of premium. But what do you need to know about this game? It's 2 to 4 players, and it is a medium weight, self-described, engine building game with 200 unique animal-esque or adjacent cards. You're taking the role of trying to be the most skilled observer, whether it's discoveries, animals, creatures in their nature, landscapes, whatever it may be. But in order to play these various cards into your engine, they have to all meet certain requirements. And now if you blow up the cards here for a second, you can take a little bit of a closer look with the requirements in the upper left-hand corner of what you're going to need in the first place. And by all accounts, people are really liking this game. I mean, like I said, to lead into it. You can't get it, or it's hard to get right now, period. That's usually a very good sign, especially since it's a relatively recent release, and especially if you pull up the ranking here already as a game that was really recently released, folks. It's already broken the top 1,000. It's already top 500 in strategy, and it's already top 200 in family. So that means it has a broad-based appeal. And all the comments have been, that I've seen, very positive. An 8.0 rating with 1.3 thousand ratings already. That's great. And then the other nice thing here at the bottom that they includes envelopes, secret envelopes with additional cards to open at specific moments. Does that strike your fancy? I mean, this is a known product. And if you want to just pay a little bit of a premium, I mean, yeah, you can get it on Amazon for $60 right now. So it's going to be more available. The price is going to go down, but you can also get it right now if you want at a slightly steeper price. But let's be honest, a lot of the new Gen Con releases aren't going to be any different if you're going to get than this. This is what you're going to pay MSRP wise if you're going to get it there. And now you have a proven commodity instead. So why not go with it? So that is why Meadow is number 1. Number 2, no, this is not the original, but this is Summoner Wars, the 2nd edition. If you're talking about games that have been released in the last 6 months that are getting critical acclaim, this is one of them, as the 2-player asymmetric faction battling, dueling style of games. And if by any account, Plaid Hat Games has outdone themselves with this 2nd edition. Now you can say what you want at doing a 2nd edition sort of. If you were a 1st edition owner, we can have that whole conversation elsewhere, but this is, by all accounts, doing amazing. Now, it only has just under 500 ratings, so it's not nearly as high as the ranking of Meadow, but it's got an 8.7 rating of almost 500 ratings. That's insane. That is ridiculously high. I have seen nothing but praise as an improvement on a 2nd iteration of a game that was, frankly speaking, very well thought of in the first place. Now, this is the 2nd edition, and I believe it comes with 4 factions that you're starting out with. And you're controlling a unique army to take control of a battle using your tactical prowess by summoning these units to outmaneuver your opponent on the battlefield. And you're using those cards to maneuver them actually on a battle frickin' field. So again, it's out there. It's like nothing that you see in this sense. You just don't do that with other cards moving around a battlefield. You have miniatures, you have standees, but you don't have a lot of times cards moving. Even Arakan Wars, which is the most recent Kickstarter that sort of tries to replicate this, a little bit in a sense. You know, let's be honest, it's a little different though. The cards are static. The cards affect those around them, but they do not move. This does both. And like I said, everything that I have seen is just positive, known quantity, improvement on a game that was already well thought of. If you are looking for a dedicated 2-player dueling type game in the mage-esque, in the asymmetric faction-esque games, I don't think there is a better game to probably get right now. And it's widely available, and I believe it's going for about $40, and it's not sold out, unlike Meadow. So you could get it and have it in your doorstep, depending on how much you want to pay for shipping, easily in under a week, even possibly 2 or 3 days. So, I mean, you have to be interested in it if that is your ilk whatsoever. Check it out. Look, this, as number 3, is going to be by far and away the most controversial one on this list. And that goes back to the beginning where I was talking about the ones that aren't readily available. But this is Unfathomable, the Cthulhu reskin of Battlestar Galactica. You can only pre-order it. You may have it by the end of the year, but it's going to be an experience unlike any other. The details of how it's differing from Battlestar Galactica are already leaking out as FFG slowly trickles out more information. You can order it for about $64 online from one of the major stores anywhere, essentially, right now, almost. And so the question is just more of when you can get it, and do you have a play group that's going to be able to utilize it to the full extent? That, frankly speaking, is the only reason I have not pre-ordered it at this point, is because I don't know if I have really the 4 or even consistently 5 or maybe even 6 players to take this game to the meta next level. From a hidden trader sort of element with an ultimate whodunit, if you will. It looks amazing, and if it is anything like Battlestar Galactica and the other things that I just mentioned on this list as a 2.0 version of this, I have to feel like this is going to be making waves shortly after it hits the stores and people's hands. And so I just think that the ceiling is incredibly high on this, and what this list truly emanates and focuses on is that the basement of this game is also, I feel like, incredibly high. So I would buy the hype of this over something else that does not have a pedigree that you can look at and bank on from that side of things. And that is why it's number 3. Now, number 4 and number 5 should be no surprise to you guys because I've talked about them, I've done reviews on them, but I think they are worth echoing. Cascadia is number 4 for a reason. Cascadia is going to be on almost, I'm not going to say everybody's, but it's going to be on a lot of people's top 10 lists of 2021. Frankly speaking, it's going to be on a lot of people's top like 25 lists of games of all time, I feel like, once it gets a broader berth. I think it's that good personally. I'm willing to put my neck out there and say that, without a doubt, even at this point. It's that good from a set collection, not really engine building whatsoever, but sort of a matching in terms of patterns and puzzles with different animal shapes and the hexes or the locations. And you can check out my review if you want for more details. I'll put the link above. But it's just a amazing combination of makes you think but does not make you overly think or AP, especially if you're AP prone. The multiple ways of scoring each of the different animals gives increased variability without increased overhead or increased complexity in terms of how hard you feel like you need to think. And the turns are relatively smooth, and it's a self-contained game in how long it is in terms of how many tiles you're playing. So all in all, I mean, I really like this game. I cannot understate that. The biggest downside is probably this little scoring pad right here of the math that you have to do at the end. But again, it's great. It's simple. It does what it sets out to do. And Flat Out Games should be very proud to have this out there. Is a, frankly speaking, a better successor to their first hit of Calico. And I'm not the only one saying that. Again, 8.1 rating with 1,500 ratings. 9th best abstract, 122 on the family side of things, and already, again, almost the top 750 without even being out, essentially just over 6 months. So that's Cascadia at number 4. Number 5 is Bullet. Again, level 99 games. Again, I can't say enough about this as a real-time simulation of, Space Invaders, if you will. And only the invaders are these bullets you're drawing from your bag simultaneously over a 2-minute, 3-minute round. And you're dropping them in their slots. You're using your special asymmetric powers to manipulate these bullets on the board in order to eliminate them and send them to the person that is next in line after you until somebody can't clear all of them. They attack your character, they do damage to your character, and eventually your character is eliminated until there's only one left standing. And the deluxeifications with this is one of the few games I would argue this one really truly benefits from. And it gives such a more sensory improvement in terms of drawing these wooden chips from the bag as opposed to regular cardboard chits. And it's just a beautiful game. It's just a beautiful game. I love it. It's not going to be for everyone because this rush of the timer definitely will put some people from that side of things. But with the 2 expansions already announced and one of them literally in port waiting to be delivered, but that was delayed, Bullet Orange, I mean, there's just going to be more of a good thing. And again, I think with this one, you're going to see it pop up on a lot of people's lists too. But again, it's not going to be for everyone. So it's not going to pop up on everyone's list because this is definitely a different game than anything else I have seen out there. But again, I cannot give enough of it. And I would say that there's easily enough information out there that should be no challenge of figuring out whether or not it's right for you, but knowing that it's a quality game. Again, 800 ratings, 7.8. That speaks for itself. And that is number 5. Now, you may be looking at yourself and going, okay, well, Chris, you're telling me not to go to Essen, not to buy stuff from Essen. I don't want all of this non-Euro-y beneath me, rolling, mitigation, chaos, randomness. Blech. So let's talk about if you're on that end of things too. I'll throw in a couple for you that, okay, if you don't have these I think if you're looking at that side of things should be almost a staple in your collection, or at least have tried them to know they're not for you. And so I'm going to give you, if you're at that end of things, a little bit of piece of the pie as well, if you will. And the first up is Glen Chronicles. And this is a big game. This, again, if you're looking to shell out for the new stuff, something like this from a price point wise, and several of these, shouldn't really be too much drastically different, let's be honest. So, Glen 2 Chronicles. And this is a reimplementation with a very unique, now I got corrected in the comment sections last week, not exactly a rondel, but a action movement selection. And I'm just going to go with that sort of title right now, because the gist of it is you can see that your pieces are going to be outside this track. And as you move your marker around this track, you take one of these tiles. You can move so many spaces, but the further you go dictates the order in which you go, meaning the last person, the person that is furthest back on this track. So you could potentially get several tiles in a row based on being further behind than other players. Now you can play this in the new expansion that just came out. The Highland Games comes with a solo automa, but usually this is more of a 2 to 4 player game. So you just got to be aware of it from that side of things. But there is, even at the 2 player, sort of an automa that you're utilizing to give the full effect of more than just you and someone else going head to head. And there's just a lot going on. There's a lot to balance. It's an economic resource management while doing tile laying as well. And it's just unique. And when you lay these tiles, you collect all from around the other tiles that are, bordering it. And you're navigating, managing your workers, where you can place the tiles in the first place, and what resources, and how many, and what you're capping them in for. So it's just a great overall game. And if that weren't enough, the name Chronicles accentuates the fact that it comes with modules to add more depth, add more replayability without drastically changing the complexity of the game in the first place. Now, this hasn't won a bunch of awards or anything, but it was, I think, like a 2019 Board Game Geek winner. And this is not just me talking. This is someone who does not usually like these games saying that this is one that I enjoy. And again, if we're going to talk about ranking, 200 top overall, 108 in the strategy. So it's not like, oh, well, Chris is looking at the light games again. I don't have any interest in that. No, these are serious strategic planning games. And this is one that I think is top notch without even any of the other stuff. But when you throw that in, I mean, well, you're going to pay for it, but you're going to get it too. So that's Glen 2, the Chronicles. Now, speaking of paying more, and this is probably the one that's probably going to be hardest to get on the list from that side of things, is, and I'm just going to use this as a placeholder, but El Grande. If you don't have El Grande, if you like any sort of placing people on a map and controlling areas and fighting over areas, this is the El Papa of them all. This is the one from about 20 years ago that still stands the test of time that I would play over any of the newer iterations. The elegance is in the simplicity, and it is. But the nuance is there, and if you get something like the big box, as you can see here, it's including 6 different expansions, none of which you really need until you've played it half a dozen to a dozen times. And you can probably tell me how many games you have like that you've played that much. But the great thing about this game is you can teach it to anyone. This is the map. This is the setup. This is the what you need to know. The rules are about 3 or 4 pages total. That's about it. I mean, it's not something that's going to be like Rising Sun or Blood Rage or Ankh, where everyone's going to have to know the meta and everyone's going to have to know the turns and the asymmetric powers and knowing what other people are going to... No, the cards are face up. Choose a card. Bid. There you go. It's a great game. It's a great game. It's one of those games where if you are looking to get in at any level, if you haven't played this game or you're looking just another game for a new collection, highly recommend. So it's just more of the price point and what edition, from that side of things, and that comes with a little extras. That's really the main difference. But that's El Grande. That's why it's number 7 on this list. Now, number 8. Let's talk about number 8 now. If you're saying, okay, Chris, I really want to spend on something new. I need something new on this list. I need something new. Give me new. Well, you know what? Go big, splash that way, and get Great Western Trail, the 2nd edition, right? Early comments is that it's fixing a lot of the things that were issues with the first one. I believe it incorporates the expansion, the railways expansion. So if you're looking for a new splash and you want to be on the hotness, but you're sort of trying to temper it, and you like this ilk of the Euro worker placement-esque resource management, this is probably one of the safest hot new releases that you may see from that standpoint. Again, the ceiling is going to be higher than the original potentially if they've done their diligence. And the basement is going to be, again, very, very high as well. And so you can't go really wrong from that side of things. Now, again, I'm speaking outside my comfort zone. But I think it has the grounds and the pedigree to stand on in the first place. So if you're interested, definitely be checking this one out instead. Whether that's pre-ordering it, getting it from one of these conventions. I don't know what the exact retail release date is, but it's probably not going to be too far off either way. Now, the next one here, we're going to talk, and if my recommendation isn't enough, take it from people who are more well thought of than I am, and shut up and sit down when they just recently recommended the reprint of Hansa Teutonica, the big box, which includes all of the expansions. And again, you can get this for like between $35 and $40 before shipping online right now. So it's not really, again, a big wallet buster, even though the value and the amount of content you're getting is great, especially in regards to the past content when you were buying it with the expansion separately. And the next one on this list is going to echo that sentiment, actually, very similarly, eerily similarly. I didn't even plan it that way, but that is why it's on there. Now, the difference in this one is going to be that it's a 3 to 5 player count as you're building these trade routes along the Hanseatic Sea. And so you are merchants, you are guild members, and you're just trying to manage these routes between real life places in a very strategic, very potentially cutthroat type of game. But again, the big issue being you have to have at least a 3-person player count, which sets it apart from many of the other games on this list as a little bit of a harder swallow sometimes, where you can't play it solo and it really doesn't play 2-player either. But again, it's coming with the expansion, so you're getting your money's worth from that side of things. I have a copy. I have yet to get it to the table, but again, smarter people than me have already given their blessing on this thing, as well as the fact that it's getting a reprint in the big box in the first place, meaning it was that well thought of to get one of those. So that should be enough for you just from that side of things. Now, the last one, I was originally going to go with Concordia. Just could go with Concordia. But after checking out the prices, I mean, you might as well get Concordia Venus, the standalone. Because again, coming with all of the expansion boards, whether or not you're going to utilize them all, you're essentially paying about $10 more at retail to get all of the expansions than just getting the sole base game and what comes with that. And so you're much better off getting this. And again, as like the 18th or 20th overall best ranked game on Board Game Geek, from a highly cutthroat strategic element with resource management. Again, not either of these last two games being my forte. If you're looking for something like that and you don't have some of these classics, well, they're a reason that they've stayed around as long as they have and the test of time. It's because not only are they great games, but they have mass appeal from people who are already ingrained waist deep in this side of the strategy games. And in case you think I'm just saying this, well, I mean, this is the reprint, right? From 2018. It's already in the top 200 and the top 100 overall for strategy. So again, that's not me saying anything. That is other people voting. And say what you will about the Board Game Geek ratings, you're not going to find bad games in the top 200. You're just not. Because people are too critical nowadays in both a positive and a negative way to be dealing with it from that side of things. And now, again, 2 to 6 players, how many expansions you're going to use, which board is right for you, which one you prefer. That is all added elements because you can pick it up for about $57 according to Amazon right here. Now, if you go to Concordia, I mean, it's $47. So, I mean, again, that $10 price point for all of the expansions to go along with this, it's a no-brainer. And how different do you think that that is actually going to be price point-wise compared to something new on the hotness like Golem as the the highest ranking Euro that's currently trending on the hotness right now, or Korra, which is also trending on that side of things. I mean, this is $43, so just $10 under. And let's be honest, if you're gonna bundle it and get the free shipping, $10 at that point's not that big a deal. And again, with Golem, there's no price point. And if you're gonna pick up any of these not pre-order, it's not going to be $43. You're going to probably pay MSRP, which puts it right back up near probably where Concordia is from that side of things at this $57. So there's not a lot of price difference from that side of things with these things. So if you're looking at it from a price and a value standpoint, you're not missing out on things. If anything, you're saving money by getting this and this later. And that's weird. But if you can handle a little bit of the waiting, because you can get other stuff that's great in your hands right now, coming from me, that's the irony. I'm aware. But that's what you should be looking at too. Because you can now still get what you want, but you can also save a little bit. So it's sort of a win-win in that situation. So there you go. 10 games that you can get now-ish, obviously with a little asterisk and a little bit of disclaimer on there. But games that you can tell already the pedigree. You can tell already what it is. You can see everything you need to know before ever even clicking on the order. Or more than walking into the convention and seeing everyone else carrying a game, thinking that you need to get it too before it's sold out. Or playing a round or two of some game on there and hoping that the full game over several plays lasts up. I want to say, and this may be the most poignant example, is going to these conventions, I feel like, and buying games there, it's sort of like being what they call in the honeymoon phase of a relationship, where everything is wonderful and both people are starry-eyed. And that's sort of what it's like being at a convention, getting access to the new and the hotness, and even getting to demo it and getting a chance to buy it and going, oh. But, maybe that's not always the best thing. I mean, and from a relationship standpoint, honeymoon phase is not always a good thing if you know what I'm talking about. So, anyway, there you go. What other games would you recommend? What else do you think? Is this useful? Like, the anti-hype, if you will. The anti-hotness type of top 10 to say, you know what? Break check here. Slow down. Think about getting some of these other things first. Let me know. As always, thanks for watching. Stay classy. Have a great day.